Good morning, Edgewood Golf Shop. This is Greg. Yeah, Greg, my name is Patrick Reed. I'm wondering if there's a golf pro around that can give me a bunker lesson. I'm having a hard time with my backswing. Is that possible today? Well, gee, Patrick, I don't think we can do that today. Yeah, well, I understand it's short notice, but how about like anger management for caddies? Do you have that available at your golf course at all? No, sorry, we do not. Matt Cook, happy birthday.
Hey, 1 year.
Do you have a backswing coach for bunkers?
No, I don't believe it. I never hit in a bunker.
True. You don't ever get there. You're always short.
Good point. Boy, you know what? We began 2019 talking about rules of golf, and now here we are at the end of the year, and we're talking about rules of golf.
He was just I'm not sure what he was doing, Matt.
It looked bad, didn't it?
It did look bad.
If anybody didn't see this, 2019 President's Cup down in Melbourne just recently, Patrick Reed's in a bunker. Cameras just happened to catch him taking a couple practice swings. I guess you would say maybe rehearsals, I think. And in the process of making his backswing, he cleared a considerable amount of sand.
He made a ditch, man. He made a full ditch in a bunker.
He really did. And yet he, after going through his interviews, he said that he did not see it happen. He did not he did not see any sand movement.
Should be calling an optometrist, apparently, if he didn't see it.
I don't know about seeing it, but you certainly should have felt it.
That was a half a yard of dirt he took away from that thing.
I've taken some shovels of snow today, or this week, that have been less. I don't know.
So anyway, welcome to At What's My Tee Time podcast. I'm Greg McCullough, the golf professional at Edgewood Golf Course, I think. I'm joined every time by Matt Cook, who's a head pro at Prairiewood National and Rose Creek Golf Course. And Matt, we have a special guest today on our birthday.
We do. We brought in a big hitter once again.
Who's here today?
We have got teaching golf professional from Fargo Country Club, Chris Croach. Chris is got a wealth of knowledge on just about everything when it comes to the golf swing.
Croachy, you're a big backswing guy. Do you have a backswing that you can use in a bunker like that?
Yeah, I just bring my backhoe.
You think if Patrick Reed would have brought in his backhoe, you think he would have seen that?
No.
This is already our funniest podcast we've ever done.
Oh boy, I tell you, so what does everybody think of that? I mean, in his belief, he said that there was no intent, so therefore the DQ would not be in play. They went, of course, by the rules of golf, and they didn't see that either, so it was a 2-stroke penalty that he received. He did finish 2 strokes out of the lead, but still picked up a pretty healthy check, and it's right before the President's Cup, so it really kind of put all of his teteammates in a bad situation.
How about Justin Thomas, though? You see Justin Thomas kind of make fun of him in the practice rounds there?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I don't know if once again, how he handled that. Not Justin Thomas, but Patrick Reed. But then throughout the event, all the things that happened, from him even making light of it after, I don't know if that was his team match in his second day or what it was, where he had made a putt, and I'm sure he was getting some jeers, and so he kind of made a motion like he was shoveling some sand or something after he made that putt, which I'm like going, dude, I think I'd be kind of crawling a hole right now and being as invisible as possible and just keep my mouth shut. But that wasn't the case with him. And, that I'm sure is going to only aggravate fans even more, get them even more just in Patrick's ear, to the point of, there was some individual out there that had a few extra adult beverages and decided to say a few expletives to Patrick Reed, and Patrick Reed's caddy jumps off the golf cart and goes and gives him a little shove and jumps back on the cart and takes off. Well,
I didn't know you could DQ a caddy.
Right.
I had no idea you could do that.
It's true. It's just bringing more just bad light. It's just there was some really good play, I think, in the President's Cup overall. But
at least it became a competition.
It did.
It really did. Those are a lot of fun for us to watch when it's competitive.
Right.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun for them when the U.S. is up by 12 or 14 points, and it doesn't really matter. But it was fairly compelling golf, I thought.
Yeah, it was. And I tell you, if I have to give Patrick Reed any credit whatsoever, he did play some amazing golf the last day. I mean,
He needs to be on the team just to add a little extra, whatever that is. Ditch digging, anger management issues.
I kind of like the fingering, all the shh kind of deal, once again. But the whole rest of the stuff I could go without. But
Croce, did you get to watch it at all?
I didn't watch very much of it. I just watched maybe an hour of it total. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a great comeback. They started down. Tiger was obviously a little moved. I saw his interview afterwards, and it was kind of neat to see a little emotion out of him.
Yeah.
So
Happens when you get older. I mean, sorry.
they were saying Tiger gave more hugs that day than he's given his entire life to anybody else.
Yeah, I don't think so. There's a lot of people in cafes around the world that probably disagree with that.
Oh, yeah. I think I did throw a shout out on Twitter the other day about that. Saying everybody was now so bad on Patrick Reed being a cheater. I said he's not even the biggest cheater in golf. Just ask Tiger's ex-wife.
Oh, God. So definitely a PG podcast for us today, Matty.
It is indeed. It must be towards the end of the year.
Anyway, Chris Croce, thanks for joining us today. We had Chris on a little while ago talking about the golf swing, and today he's going to talk about putting. Chris, where would you like to start?
boy,
What does the average person do, or not do, or can do that would make them better? That would make them a better putter.
yeah. So I think if you break things down and understand, I mean, and you can apply this to like all of golf, right? I mean, like if you say, okay, what are the 3 skills in putting that I can do to get better right now, right? And really, I would look at putting and I'd say there's probably 4 skills you need to get good at, right? Number 1, and I think probably the most important skill is green reading, right? You want to talk about like myths in golf and things like that. Like, you know what? The ball does not break towards the water. When you're playing the back 9 at Fargo Country Club on number 10, the ball kind of rolls that way, but it doesn't look like the green's sloped that way. Guess what? The green is sloped that way, right? I hear it all the time. You hear it on commentators on TV. You know what? Like, the ball is breaking this way because there's some mysterious pull towards the valley. You know what? It doesn't happen. The ball breaks that way because there's slope that way and gravity's pulling the ball down the hill. But if you look at putting from a skill standpoint, right, and say that, okay, if I can do something to improve my green reading, and there's lots of ways to do that. Aim point, which I teach, is just one way. There's other ways to improve green reading. If you improve speed, if you improve aim, which is a little debatable, but I think it still is a skill, and then starting the ball on the line that you perceive, and then how do you put all of those pieces together, that if you focused on each of those individually, you'd become a better putter. Within each skill, there's obviously ways to improve each. So that if we take a kind of open look on things like that, that you can absolutely improve. So
How about excuse me? How about the length of your putter? Big impact, small impact, too generic of statement.
no, I think it is a big impact, and that's something that I am starting to learn more about right now. Putter fitting and how putter designs can influence aim, and how putter designs can influence your movement patterns and how they can change your stroke. It's kind of commonly been thought or talked about, right, that the putter moves, that we move the putter in a few different ways, right? That either it moves straight back and straight through, or it moves on an arc. And really, when you start to look at it, the putter kind of doesn't do either of those. It moves in a straight plane. When you really start to describe things and break things down, how it actually happens. what we visually see is the putter head moving in an arc, but in reality, it's moving in a straight plane. Okay, the toe of the putter looks and appears like it is moving more than the heel, and that's happening because the putter is moving in that plane. So the notion that we swing the putter head in an arc, even though it's a simplistic way of thinking about it, it's probably not the most accurate way to think about it. And it's definitely not moving straight back and straight through. It's definitely not swinging like a pendulum. There's too many moving pieces that happen in each, both straight back and straight through on a pendulum, that you really can't call it either. I was recently down with an instructor in North Carolina. His name's David Orr, and he kind of became known. He's been a putting instructor forever, but he kind of became known because he was Justin Rose's coach, specifically just putting when Justin Rose won the U.S. Open. And I've kind of wanted to take a little bit deeper dive into understanding what is really happening. Because what I've done in the past whenever I coach people is basically I teach skills, right? And I don't think you can go wrong teaching skills. You know, it'd be kind of like taking a vitamin every morning. Like, you're really not going to hurt yourself, you know? And I haven't went down that gopher hole, so to say.
Was that a cheap shot at U of M?
How's your hockey team doing?
Did they just play this week?
Did they play a couple weeks ago?
Go back to your gopher hole. Go
Against
ahead.
a team we know?
That was a pretty rough first night, that's for sure.
Go back to your gopher hole.
So you know, you go down that hole of working on mechanics and things like that, and it doesn't matter if it's putting or if it's full swing. I mean, if you really aren't 100% sure that you know what you're doing and that this road isn't the right road, like, you might not get yourself out of that gopher hole, or it might take you a while to get out of it, right? And so I've always just focused on skills, right? Because we can all get good at those. But I've wanted to take a little deeper dive into understanding things better, right? And that's kind of what led me to David Orr. And his knowledge is absolutely mind-blowing.
Does he row the boat with the last name of Orr?
He definitely does.
Matt?
Okay, you guys get out my gophers.
So he definitely doesn't row the boat, so to say, just in terms of your putting instruction, right? I mean, this guy was incredible to listen to. I obviously spent a little time with him when we were down in Pinehurst a few weeks back. And part of the reason why I wanted to do that is I wanted to get to know him a little bit and see if he would allow me to come and watch him teach and kind of become part of his community. So he has what's called Flat Stick Academy. And to become one of, kind of learn from him and learn how to coach putting, I wanted to just take a lesson from him and introduce myself a little bit and see if he would take me in, and he's going to. So, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to get a deeper understanding of how can I go and understand this really, really in depth and deeply, and then be able to communicate it in the simplest possible ways. And he's going to be able to help me do that. So,
what's really interesting, and I think David Orr's done such a great job with this from what you've told me and some stuff that I've been listening to him about, is, there's, I think, a lot of myths out there, a lot of things that have been taught over the years, and one of them you just addressed was bringing the putter straight back and straight through. Sounds like, wow, that seems pretty simple. If we could just bring the putter straight back and straight through, what a great way to, as far as be able to hold more putts, and get the ball started on line. The cool thing with all the technology nowadays is so much more of this is measurable that we didn't have before. You could use your eye. We eventually got into video. You could probably see some things there, but still having some of the tools you have now to understand that. And like you just mentioned, straight back, straight through, that was one area that I kind of chased for the longest time. thinking that would be a very simple way to actually make more putts, when it's actually probably, I'm not going to say one of the most complicated, but it is very, very challenging to try to do that, like you just addressed. There's so many things, I think, as far as variables, moving parts that we have to do to make that happen, to truly try to bring the putter straight back and straight through, if at all even possible, to do that. And so it's really kind of interesting, I think, now of how things have kind of evolved and continue to change.
Yeah, I think, with our understanding of human movement, right, that everything that we do happens in 6 degrees of freedom, right? This is kind of like the crazy instructor stuff that I kind of dig into, right? That, like the putter, just for example, I'll kind of go off on just a little bit here, and like the putter only moves because we put a force on the putter, right? And that force is exerted through our hands, right? Specifically through kind of the point at which your hands join on the club, on the grip of the club, right? And that putter can rotate around 3 axes, like an XYZ, and then it can also translate, like forward, back, specifically I'll say like sway, slide, thrust, which would be moving closer to the golf ball, and then lifting, right? And how do all of your joints, right? So now we kind of start to get into like, wrist flexion, extension, radial ulnar, forearm pronation, supination. Your elbows can flex, extend. Your shoulders can adduct, protract, retract. I mean, it's like there's so many things going on when you really start to think about it, right? But from the instructor side of things, like I think it's super important for us to have like at least like a basic knowledge. Like it's too complicated to try and have like a deep knowledge of it, right? And that's why, like in golf instruction today, we see a lot of instructors trying to learn from the biomechanists. Okay, so guys like Phil Cheatham, guys like Rob Neal, because they have the knowledge of how the human body moves. They have the measurement systems that can measure fully 6 degrees of freedom how the body moves, right? And they can tell you, like, okay, because we've measured all of these really great putters, for example, like, one, there's really no commonality amongst them all, but all of them are kind of doing this, right? And you look at a stroke like Hunter Mahan, for example, who was a great putter, and he was very torso driven, right? And that kind of fit into his belief system of how he believed the putter should move. And then you get a guy like Tiger, for example, who I got to see some of his motions and reports and stuff like that when I was down in North Carolina, and he really moves the putter on a fairly straight plane. Okay, so visually as you look down, it's not arcing as much as you would think, but he has a tremendous amount of face rotation in his stroke, right? And he powers his stroke kind of by using his right hand quite a bit, right hand and right forearm, that's where he creates his speed from. Whereas, again, on the opposite end of the spectrum, Hunter Mahan, where he's kind of creating his speed through his torso. And, we can look at all that and start to see patterns amongst how people do things. And, like, I actually got this question kind of answered to me when I was out there is like, I mean, is it really about changing someone, or is it someone can also improve by understanding your pattern and what your pattern produces, right? So if we know, for example, that your pattern tends to, return with the face open, we know that open to the path, we'll call it, whether that's open to, right of the target or left of the target, that would be left for the assessment to figure out. But if we can start to develop an understanding for what the pattern produces, then we can start to have a more accurate idea in our mind, so that perception of what we're doing matches the reality of what we're doing. And when those two start to meet, good things can start to happen, and we can start to really have an understanding for what we do and how we need to accommodate things in our stroke to make more putts.
So, is there a skill, Chris, like an aiming skill that maybe you've used before? Because I mean, I even know on my end of it, I mean, as we get older, everything changes. Our vision changes. How we get over the ball changes. Where we think we're aimed and where we are aimed are probably two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that the average player could be better at aiming it, understanding that their patterns are going to be different?
Sure, totally. I think so. So I think the first thing to understand is that perception is different than vision, right? The two aren't the same. And I could be a little off on this, but I think I'm right. Like, perception's kind of what you see in your mind's eye. Vision is what you see, right? I got the putter down. I'm looking down. That putter head looks straight to me, right? That's what I see. But in reality, the putter might be aimed 4 degrees to the right, okay? So now, this is something that I've struggled with. Like, when do you change that? Right?
Right.
Because, okay, if someone has a very ingrained stroke pattern, right? So they're aiming right, and they've learned to start the ball on their target line. What they're doing is they're directing their stroke, okay? And they're making changes during their stroke to get the face functionally pointed in the right direction so that the ball can start on line, right? The ball starts on line because of where the face is pointed, not because of where the path of your putter goes, right? And especially in putting, it's about 95% face, 5% path, right? So I see a lot of people out there that are very concerned with the path of their stroke, and they're forgetting about the way more important piece of the puzzle, which is, where's the face pointed, right? So to come back to that original question of, like, how could we help someone aim better? I think it starts with perception and actually seeing straight. So what I would do is, and I've tried this a few different ways, and still my favorite way of doing it is what John Graham showed us
Yep.
a few years ago, right? Is, let's just stand over a 10-foot putt and let's line up a straight line of golf balls to the hole. So you might put 5 golf balls down in a straight line to a hole, right? Stand over that golf ball at 10 feet, look down that line of putts, and what does that line look like to you? Some people it looks right, some people it looks left, some people it looks straight.
Kind of looks like the yardage line at the Fargo Dome that goes back and forth and zigs and zags.
Right?
That blew me away when he did that, by the way. I was like, whoa, that doesn't. I know what you did. I know what it is. It doesn't look like that at all.
Right. It's still, you know what? I had a pretty decent year of putting last year. And honestly, I attribute it to that. You know, I tend to see that line left. I tend to aim a little right. Those two things are probably interrelated a little bit because my perception is left. I compensate for that by aiming a little bit right, and then have to redirect my stroke another way in order to get the ball started on the correct line. But it's a real simple exercise. I mean, you can literally practice it at home in the wintertime.
So, Chris, then when you look at that and you do that exercise, and you can really probably see, wow, it's easier for me now to understand that my putter face is maybe open or close to that line.
Well, I think you might notice that the putter face is open or close to that line, but the drill really isn't intended to help aim the face. The drill's really intended to perceive a straight line.
Okay.
Right? So, because if in your mind's eye, if you're not perceiving that line as straight, you're going to have to develop mechanisms to get the ball started on the line that you want it to.
Right.
Okay.
So you should do that, Matt Cook.
Well, and the one thing,
I'd be interested to know when you did that.
right.
I think I know where the balls would line up for you, but I'm not sure.
Well,
Right.
okay, don't say anything, Matt,
Okay.
because you and I spent probably 2 hours
Right,
doing this
right.
a few weeks ago. Where do you think his perception is?
Right.
Other way around.
Left.
Yep.
Really?
Your perception was left, if I
Correct.
remember
My
correct.
perception's left. I aim way right.
Yeah.
Aim's way
Yeah,
right. He was
yeah.
about 3 to 3.5 degrees right on a 10-foot putt.
Correct. So kind of where I was going with that is like, you know, for that drill even then, the next thing we kind of went down is at my address, at my setup, what could I maybe change in my setup to possibly perceive?
Yeah, so let me
Go
hit
ahead.
on another myth
Okay.
that people believe their eyes need to be directly over the golf ball. No, they don't.
Right.
They need to be wherever they need to be in order for you to see that line straight, right? There was a study done of 50 tour players. I don't know how long ago this was. I remember reading about it in a magazine, right? I don't know exactly how reputable the information is because it's been a while. But of the 50 guys that they studied, 48 of them had their eyes inside the ball, not directly over it, right? 2 of them had their eyes directly over it, and no golfers had their eyes outside the golf ball, right? So I think it's probably safe to say that we could probably say that they are the best putters in the world. That because they're out on the PGA Tour, right? That, okay, they're doing that intuitively because that's kind of what they've done. And they're probably seeing that line relatively straight. I can't say that for 100% certain because I've never worked really with tour players, right? But in some of the good players that I've worked with, I think people are kind of in the ballpark. I don't know how accurate that is, to be honest, but because I've seen people all over the board. I've probably ran 40 people through that exercise, and I see people all over the board. So it's fascinating how, you know, then if someone's not seeing that line as straight, okay, so are they a good putter or are they struggling with their putting? So that's the thing that amazes me with like coaching putting right now is like you start to ask some of these questions and now you start to just go down other roads, and it's like, okay, how do I take all of these pieces to the puzzle and like try and organize them in the right manner so that this person can improve the fastest with maybe the least amount of effort. But I would definitely start by making sure that your perception matches straight. And I would do that with that drill. From there, what I would probably do as far as aim goes is start to understand what the stroke pattern is. Because if I go and change aim, let's say, for example, Matt. So Matt aims right, and in order for him to get the ball started back on line, he's got to shut the club face, okay? So if I just make you aim straight and don't change any of the stroke mechanics, you're going to hit it way left, right? So now it would be pretty easy to say, okay, you're just going to have to learn to get the ball started on line from that. But boy, I'll tell you from experience, I mean, you can cause like chaos in a person's mind trying to do that. So I think I know there's a lot more that goes into it than just saying aim straight. I would definitely do the one piece though and get that person seeing straight first.
I mean, so my question to you would be, that person who does it or perceives it in a certain way with his putting stroke, are they perceiving it or doing it the same way in their big stroke? Most of the time, never.
Big stroke meaning like hitting a 40-foot putt?
Or a driver or a 7-iron. I mean, do they have the same perception, aiming tendencies with their putting that they do with their longer clubs, or not?
That's a good question. Okay, so something that I've been doing just recently is placing a lot of clubs or alignment sticks in front of people. Okay, so I line it up with the golf ball and have it maybe 4 or 5 feet in front of them, pointed right at where they want the ball to finish, right? And as I have them step over the golf ball, look down the line, and where does that line look, right? And because we have, because our eyes are not in line with the golf ball, right? Our vision and perception of things is a little bit distorted, okay? Specifically, you can do some research on it. It's called a vision parallax. And you'll see objects at a distance look like they're more stationary than objects that are closer to you. I think I said that right. And the people that I've done this with, some people see that line more left than others, right? So I think it does play into it, but I can't really draw, like, I'm so new into doing it that I can't really draw like a correlation into that.
So Matt, have you ever done that with an alignment stick and put it in front of you on the driving range?
I have.
Do you think that looks left?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. And it should look left, but some people it looks massively left.
Right.
To some people it doesn't
No left,
look
Matt.
too
Correct.
right.
Correct.
So
You'd kind of mentioned, I mean, obviously some things that are so important as far as, you did say being able to start the ball on line. You did talk about speed. Mm-hmm. You did talk about green reading. One thing, just starting the ball on line too, I think one thing that you kind of gave that is a neat little drill is just trying to create that gate out in front of you and being able to get that ball started on the correct line once again. Mm-hmm. That was a really good drill as well.
How far out in front of you to put that gate, Chris? Or does it depend on the person?
I think I usually, so personally myself, I like to put it about 2 feet.
Okay.
For no other reason than I just try and stay consistent. I do 2 feet.
Right.
But I'll kind of change the size of that gate a little bit based on the person. Mm-hmm. Obviously, your better players are going to have a tighter one and a tighter kind of window to hit the ball through, and your less skilled players are going to have a little wider window.
Yeah. So again, that's something you can do in the wintertime for us up here in the tundra.
Totally.
That's pretty easy to do.
Yep.
Again, line it up to something, put a gate with the balls, whatever that distance is,
Yep.
and practice getting it through
the gate.
however you do it.
Yep.
Right. However you do it, just practice getting it through the gate.
Totally.
Okay.
However you do it, right? Without going down that, it's an analogy I like to use. You go down that gopher hole trying to fix things. You get 3 feet down there, and it might be tough to get back out. Not to say that you can't, but it might be tough, right? Who knows? You're kind of throwing a dart at the wall too. Maybe you click onto something and maybe it works, but it going down that road of mechanics, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not careful, it can be tough. But you know what? We're all, swinging the putter head really isn't that complicated, even though it is, right? I mean, that's the irony behind it, I think, is like the more that I've learned, right, is that if you're standing over a 10-foot putt and it's dead straight, right? If your putter face is off by 1 degree, you'll miss. Like the level of precision that goes into it is amazing to me. I mean, hitting a wedge shot from 100 yards to 10 feet, like, sometimes you hit that shot and you look at it and you go, God, that wasn't that good. It's 10 feet from 100 yards, right? that's kind of the same as like hitting a putt from 10 feet and getting the ball to stop within a foot of the hole. How many players do we see out there standing over a 10-foot putt consistently, like stop the ball within a foot of the hole? Like, it's not happening that often, but that's kind of like hitting your ball from 100 yards to, we'll just say, 20 feet. You do that and you look at it and you go, I suck. Like, I mean, the level of precision that it takes is amazing.
So go back to that first drill, the ball drill, and how would we in the wintertime, how could we set that up? And maybe you talked about it, I just missed it.
Sure.
But again, I think that's something that we can do while we're inside
Mm-hmm.
in the wintertime, both the gate and the ball drill,
Yep.
to help with your putting a lot.
Yeah, so I went online and I found these fake holes. Okay, so a golf hole is like 4¼ inches wide. I mean, you could just create your own too, right? And I put the hole down on the floor, and then I line 10 balls up. Or I'm sorry, I line up a 10-foot putt, and I'll put like 5 balls down on the ground in a straight line. Stand over the ball that's 10 feet from the hole, and then what do I got to do? Where do I got to position my eyes in order to see that line straight? And what I'm doing is I'm kind of bringing my chin down to my neck. I might be lowering it. I might be raising it. I might be tipping my right ear down to my right shoulder, or my left ear down to my left shoulder, or I might be rotating my head right or left. I might move my eyes more on top of the ball. I might move further away. I might move my eyes a little further behind the ball or a little further forward. Like literally, you just have to jump in and just figure out what works for you.
It is pretty crazy when you do that. I mean, you think that would be pretty basic.
Yeah.
You line them up, you're going to stand over it, you're going to see it as you just did it, and you
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
Which when John did that, I was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's not right. I'm messed up
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yep.
So if the average person this winter, if you want to get better at your putting, that's a great way to get perception
Correct.
and get that line where you need it to be. And then if you put a gate down, you can buy them online if you really truly want a gate to go
Yep.
through. You can use 2 golf balls. You could use basically
Go to-
anything you want.
Yeah, go to Walmart and get the darts that your kids shoot out of the dart gun. They got the suction cups on the bottom of them. Stick them to the ground.
Perfect.
Super simple, right?
Perfect.
Speed is something that I think is really easy to practice in the wintertime too. So I'll do like a lot of different variations based on ability level, but Goldilocks games. I'll put 3 balls on the ground. I'll put a string 10 feet from me, 20 feet from me, and 30 feet from me. And all you got to do is roll the first ball past the string. The next ball's got to come up short of the string. And then the next golf ball's got to be on the string, right? So we do not learn as efficiently by repeating. Everyone wants to repeat in golf. And again, that's another myth that we learn. Like, oh, I'm going to get good at hitting a 50-yard shot. I'm just going to sit and hit 50-yard shots over and over again. Well, it's kind of like, why don't you go beat your head into the wall for a little while, right? No, if you want to get better and you want to get better faster, like at a 50-yard shot, hit it past 50, right? And initially when you start doing it, like you might hit it 70. Okay, now hit one short, and you might hit it 40, right? And then hit it in between, but you're learning what long a 50 feels like. You're learning what short a 50 feels like, and then on 50, right? And the better your skills get, and this is where all areas of golf like need to be focused on the skills, right? So like the skills of wedge play, distance control, trajectory control, right? The better you get at distance control, right, you might be able to hit a ball 53 yards, and then you might be able to hit one 47. Okay, now's when the game gets fun. Now if you want to progress on to the next distance, you got to get it 50 yards, right? And the better your skills get, the better you're going to improve. And we do not get better by just purely repeating something over and over again. It's bar none the worst thing we can do. I shouldn't say the worst thing we could do. I mean, there's a time and a place for it. I mean, again, if you're going down that rabbit hole of trying to gopher hole, sorry, Matt, that gopher hole of trying to like fix a mechanic, the only reason why you'd be fixing a mechanic is to improve a skill. Okay, so then you might need to repeat something over and over again. But I mean, simply you could do a Goldilocks drill at home in your basement. I do a few other variations like leapfrog games that I really like. Like those ones are awesome. You could get a sensor that goes on your putter. It's from a company called Blast Golf. I know Matt just got one. And I think they're pretty accurate. It seems like whenever I use mine, like the numbers that you get from it are pretty repeatable based on what I'm doing. I mean, and I kind of play around with it like really goofy and whatnot, and try different stuff. And like, yeah, it seems to be reading what I think I'm doing at least. I mean, for the price, I mean, you can get them for like $150. For the price, like as opposed to like a Science in Motion machine or something like that, that's going to cost you $7,000, which is accurate. For the price, it's pretty good. And you could, for example, set up to a 10-foot putt and start to play around with forward stroke time, right? So, okay, make a stroke where your forward stroke time is 0.25 seconds and get the ball to stop on the 10-foot string. Then make a stroke where your forward stroke time is 0.5 seconds and get the ball to stop on the string at 10 feet, right? So you're totally changing the timing at which your putter head travels from the end of the backswing to impact and trying to get the ball to go the same distance. So what you end up doing then is varying how far back you pull the putter head. So they're just different ways to challenge your touch and feel, and ultimately that's how you get good.
So it is hard for us. I mean, obviously we're in the tundra. We do have some simulators available at Golf Addiction and other places. It's hard to have a skill that we want to get better at when all of a sudden we don't do it for 150 days.
Totally.
I mean, you're not staying the same. You're going to get worse, easily get worse. So for us to come springtime, or we want to get better at golf and not to do it for 5 months is really, really difficult, if not impossible. Chris Croach teaches. If somebody wants to take a lesson, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so one, you can just call my cell. That's how most people get a hold of me. My number is 701-730-1178. Or you can actually go to my website. It's just chriscroachgolf.com, and you can actually just book a lesson right on there.
Perfect. Well, again, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back again because we always have this grand scheme. We're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff, and we really need to kind of isolate certain things at a time. I would love to talk to you about some more wedges and pitching and stuff because we were in Pinehurst. I thought I was an okay pitcher of the ball. I'm really not very good at it depending on the grass. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great Christmas.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great holidays.
You can hang on here. Cookie, let's do a little quick recap of 2019. Rules of golf changed. How many people out there knew the rules of golf changed?
How many knew that the
Well, how many had an actual way that they had to
really
change the way they do it?
Well,
Yeah.
I think, the one, for me personally, I'll say, for one, is the flag stick deal. I wasn't sure how I was going to handle that.
And how'd you handle it?
I preferred to use it, leave it in.
Maybe
that was my laziness.
No, I totally agree with you. I thought I would be an in person though, but I like that a lot.
When Chris was talking about perception once again and how we see it, I just think for one, I think it helped me. I don't know if I made more putts. I can't say it really helped me, but I felt like it was easier for me. Maybe it's more even my depth perception or whatever it was. I don't know. But anyhow, the other thing is it just seemed like if I was playing with one or two other guys, I don't know if I considerably changed the pace of play. But just the idea of if everybody wants the flag stick in, I thought it was kind of nice that, hey, leave the flag stick in, go hit it in, don't, move on. I like that a lot. And I don't know if it was a huge deal that changed putting statistics on tour at all. I don't know if it was like, oh boy, the flag stick, that sure made it easier. We need to change that. I don't think that was the case. So I thought that was really good. I think, the ball drop took a little bit of time, I think, getting used to. I know even for myself, just when we got out a couple times for casual play once again, I kind of caught myself wanting to kind of drop it at shoulder level once again rather than down to my knee. But I think that'll be something once again.
I would think those would be the two biggest things that we saw. The people that affected people is a wrong term, but they noticed or had to change. The rest of them, obviously when it first starts, it's the world's going to end, and now it's like, well, 2 years from now it'll be normal,
right?
Like it always is. Now, having said that, the rules changed. I thought it went okay. We had our normal whatever issues with it, and we're still kind of trying to figure those out. And some guys are digging ditches and bunkers, and they haven't figured it out yet. But we have another one coming up at the end of the year. Is the handicaps are going to change.
Right.
So we're going to have not a new system, but the way that they're done is going to change, right? So let's, on our next podcast, we'll talk about what those changes will be and what the average person will see. Again, we're going from a USGA handicap index to a world golf handicap. And there are some changes that will happen with scores and handicaps and what the max is, and one of the great things that's going to happen, and we can just touch on this super quick, is the handicaps are going to change the day after you post a score,
right.
Which in my opinion is great since the technology's there. It's not a 2-week lag anymore. It's not, you're going to have guys who play exceptional at maybe a handicap that's maybe not quite what they should be, and they're going to play 3 days in a row, and they're going to just drill everybody for 3 straight days. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, no, there's some interesting changes there, and hopefully it will be better. We'll see.
So you got any goals for 2020?
Yeah,
I already know one of them. You're already practicing your putting. You're gonna get better.
I am, and you know what? I think, like Chris had mentioned at one time, I think having a better understanding of your patterns and some of that, and we kind of talked a lot about, you and I have talked also, but Chris and I talked at length about some of my history and some of the things I think that were in my head, and that, what I maybe perceived were happening or whatever, and so after seeing it, both visually through some of the exercise we did, through video, through some of the other measurement tools that Chris was able to utilize, I think I've got a much better understanding. I think that really actually helps a lot, when you're able to do that, because and understanding maybe on some of the myths or things that I was chasing, I think that were kind of creeping back in. It was kind of nice to understand those patterns a little bit better, and to try to kind of get a better understanding, I think, of some of the things that I do want to make some changes there that hopefully can make me a better putter. And I think just that whole the sequencing of how I went about things just wasn't good, and wasn't helping me become a better putter. And I also know as well that for anybody out there, same thing when they come for a golf lesson and they come for that one lesson thinking that that's going to be the end all and it's going to change all things, you're basically going to get out of anything of what you put into it. And so, for me to get better, I need to continue to work on that aspect of my game much, much more. And that's the same thing with anybody. I think sometimes people will come into a lesson thinking that, okay, one lesson, boom, I should get much better, and that's going to be it. But you got to continue to work at it. And so that might not only mean more practice, but also more follow-up lessons and continue. So,
Chris, you got a playing goal for 2020 at all?
I'd just like to play a little more.
That's a great goal, and everybody out there who's listening to this, we would like everybody to have that same goal.
Right.
It's not necessarily you have to play 25 more times.
No.
Right? If you play 2 more times. But here's the deal. It's the same with us 3 that are sitting right here. You have to schedule it. Yeah. I mean, you literally have to schedule it. If you never schedule it, it's not going to happen. You're going to if you think about how much you play golf, right? It's on a schedule. You're scheduled to play golf. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So there you go. You got to schedule it more, and it'll happen more. You're in charge of your own schedule, so that'll work great.
How about you? Do you have any goals?
Right. So my goal is I got to gain some club head speed so I can hit it farther. So I'm going to try, once the holidays are over here, I'm going to put a plan in place to try to hit it farther. And we'll see. It may involve going to see Chris Croach to start with. It may totally involve that. I'm going to try to get my body a little bit better.
You Bryson and Brooke, huh? We're not going to start seeing some interesting pictures of you on Instagram, are we?
Okay, so
In your Speedo, or
at my age, that will not happen. At my age, right, I'm starting to understand how fast our bodies leave us. And if I don't do anything at my age, and if I go 150 days right now and I don't do anything, there used to be a time where I could get away with that, whether that was 10 years ago. I mean, I didn't have to do a lot, and I would be the same. I wasn't better. I wasn't necessarily worse. So technology got a lot better, so that made me better. At my age right now, if I don't do anything, I'm going backwards in a hurry. There are certain things that I've hit shots this year because I haven't done anything that I've never hit in my life. I mean, like, whoa. People actually remarked that I've never seen you hit that shot before. I said, I've never hit that shot before. So that's my goal. I'm going to see if I can, again, I'm not trying to be the tour dudes here, but I'm going to try to gain or keep what I have right now. So if you're out there listening and you have a goal, play more, got to be scheduled. I want to get better. Go see your local PGA pro, or go see your local pro and do a little thing or something to practice, or a skill that you need to get better.
what do you see as far as, if you have to take one person for 2020, who do you see as having a great season in 2020?
Victor Hovland.
Okay, Victor Hovland. How about you, Croce?
Yeah, boy, I think it's Victor Hovland, it's Matt Wolf. I think those guys are going to come out just guns a-blazing. So
It's fun to see some of the young talent out there. You know, there are some people that had some amazing years this year. I mean, Brooks Koepka, I mean, what did he have? A first, 2 seconds, and a fourth as far as the majors this year. Had several other top 10 finishes. Still didn't win.
But when guys and gals have good years, if you certainly just sit and look at it, life didn't get in the way. Life didn't get in the way, right? Brooks Koepka's got a little life getting in the way.
Right.
Right? I mean, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, you continue to go down that road, right? So he's had a couple injuries. Will life get in the way? Who knows?
Well,
Tiger Woods.
I was just going to say, we could use Tiger as an example. There was a few things that got
Life
a few speed bumps.
Really got in the way.
Right,
Hit him right
right.
in the forehead.
Right.
So that's one thing you just don't know. I mean, you literally have no idea.
I think it would be so difficult to stay, like the level that Koepka's played at the last couple of years is incredible, right? But, I mean, you got Matt Wolf and Victor Hovland, like they want it, right?
And there's guys we don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
There's names that we do not know right now that want it.
Yep.
Right? We talked about this all the time. You got to have access. And once you get access, it's what you do with it.
Yep.
The kids now going through this, it seems like when they get access, they want it.
Oh, yeah.
And they do stuff, whatever.
Just like Matt Wolf when he won in Minneapolis this summer. I mean, that was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you get better. And again, it's hard. The longevity, we always want to jump on the greatest thing that's happening right now. The longevity, Matt Wolf and Victor Hovland may have horrible years, and they may be back at tour school.
Right.
Right? So they're one hit, Matt Wolf's a one-hit wonder.
Yep.
Probably not. Could be. Right? So you kind of look at that progression all the time of who's getting better. My hope would be, and here's one of the positive things, Amy Olsen's gotten better every year. Mm-hmm. Every year she's played, she's gotten better. What's she going to be like this year? She's done things to get better. And she's such a hard worker, in my opinion.
Yep.
And she has a plan. So, let's hope Amy was, I don't know what she finished, 60th, 55th, whatever the case might be. Does she go to 30? Certainly could, in my opinion.
Right.
Because she had worked so hard at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be an interesting year. It is like a lot of great young talent, and like I say, who knows what Tiger's 2020 might be like? He kind of came on at the end of the year. I think he only played like 12 events this past year. So, like you talked about, there's a lot of things as far as the age. I think he's got to manage that schedule. Not that he didn't manage it before, but now he's really managing it, even to the point of the President's Cup.
He didn't play Saturday.
Right.
Why didn't he play Saturday? My body's not into it.
Right.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
But again, he's life life has kind of made what it is. I mean, when life doesn't get in the way per se, things seem to go well for whoever that person is. Patrick Reed. We are going to definitely see what's going to happen there, because he's out there now. It's all in front of him, and once that door opens, does it ever close?
Tiger, on top of being captain this year and successfully, they won down in Australia. Playing also and going 3-0, having a nice little fall finish. He had a couple wins there. I believe the Hero and the Zozo. The Hero actually didn't win though, did he?
No.
He was fourth, I think. Was winning Zozo. So it was kind of a nice little end to the season. It'll be interesting kind of see.
Winning in Japan seemed to really come out of nowhere.
Right.
That was my perception of it. Like you knew he was playing in it, but it's kind of like, well, how's he going to play?
And he played
Right.
terrible the first day.
Yeah.
Right.
He was everywhere the first day.
Yep.
And then just like our President's Cup team, right? You could all tell, which is why when we talked about earlier with captain's pick, I was hoping he would pick somebody that had played a lot
Right.
coming into it. None of those guys had played at all.
Right.
And it showed.
Right.
I mean, literally showed.
Right.
But they got better every day. So
Tiger, he ties Sam Snead now, and so with the most wins in the history of the PGA. So
well,
if
he's
you guys-
obviously got 2 goals on his board.
right.
Beat Sam Snead. That's not the first one,
Right.
probably. Well, that's the one that's closest to him. And the second one, he still has Jack's picture up there. He does.
So for each of you two, what would be your goal if you were in his shoes? Would you prefer to have most majors or most tour wins?
Well, here's the deal. He's going to get both.
You
Right?
think?
Because, if he wins one more, he's got Sam.
Right.
So he's going to get, I would assume he's going to get that one.
What do you think? What would you
I think
prefer?
if he stays healthy, I would think if he stays healthy, he's going to get them both.
How about for you guys? Would you guys, if not saying what he's going to get, what would you guys prefer?
So
You're
like
on the
Brooks
tour-
Koepka right now?
Yeah, would you
is it-
prefer to
is it
have more
20
majors? Or
or 85?
right.
Gosh, that's a hard question. They're all based on majors, unfortunately, but having 85 wins would be fantastic.
Yeah, do we put in? I've always been a majors guy. I always thought that's so important. I was like, okay, yeah, that's great, 82. But as more and more I look at it, it's like that's really impressive.
That's unbelievable.
Win that many times, I'm almost thinking that do we put too much weight on the majors?
You think we'll ever see anyone win 85 events again?
Well,
I mean-
I will say yes, because we always
Yeah.
say this,
Right.
right? When the,
Yep.
when the
I agree
person
with you.
breaks a record that can't be broken,
Uh-huh.
somebody always comes and breaks it.
Yeah.
But do you think the depth of golf continues to just improve and improve and improve overall, as far as depth that makes it even more and more challenging to
But
go
I think
on
it's
streaks like
always
that?
gotten better.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my opinion. When Jack,
Right.
how deep were the fields when Jack won? Well, we don't think they were deep, but at that time they were as deep as they'd ever been. Tiger comes and wins as many. They've never been any deeper. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think something is going to change in the game, and I don't know what that is. Something is going to change in the game to make it different, where somebody is going to dominate again. If the game doesn't change, if the game just keeps going the way it is, and I mean like distances and rules and stuff like that, if everything just keeps right on going, it will be difficult. But I believe something is going to change in the game, whether that's in a golf course or the ball or the clubs, or that's just my opinion. I don't know what that is, but there we go.
How many more wins do you have to get to that? You're like at 78, aren't you, right now? 78 total victories? Or
Well, what are we talking? Are we talking tour wins? Or are we talking any win?
any wins?
I've already got 100.
Okay.
No, do you believe that, Matt?
I do.
No, I don't. No, that won't happen.
Oh.
That won't happen. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We
Yes.
hope everybody listening has a great Christmas holiday season. Be safe. If you see us around town, please say hi. We're kind of in our casual mode now, where we have a little time so we can get out there. Matt Cook, nice job. Happy birthday. You don't look a day over. How old are you?
One. I'm
1 year,
1 year old.
1 year old. Let's get some chocolate cake and let's mess up our faces.
Do that.
Grochi, Merry Christmas
Thanks,
to your
you too.
family and everybody else. We hope everybody has a great Christmas. We'll see you probably after the new year.
Merry Christmas.